Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Got a great show for you guys today. Been off for a week or so. I'll talk about that in just a second. But, yeah, that was not a fun Thanksgiving afternoon for me, as you can tell by the hat that I'm wearing. As for the podcast audience, I'm wearing a Dak Prescott hat because that is my freaking quarterback. Going to talk about that to start the show off, if I can stomach it, as well as LeBron and the fan incident in Indiana, which was interesting to say the least. I'm completely on LeBron's side with this. I don't know how you, honestly, if you know what happened, how you couldn't be on LeBron's side. I'll talk about that in just a second, as well as Nick Saban going classic Nick Saban rant on an Alabama fan on a phone call. On one of those call-in shows that you see that college football coaches have. They go to a restaurant, they're with the radio host for the team, and some fans call in. They want to ask the coach questions, and Nick Saban got a little testy with one. But I think he brought up a bigger picture point that isn't talked about enough in college football and frankly in sports, but especially in college football for dominant programs, which of course the University of Alabama is in football. Before I get into any sports, though, I just wanted to talk just a second about why I was off for the last half week, I guess you could say. I missed, 2 shows. On Saturday, this past Saturday evening, of course, it is Black Friday today, and a very late happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Last Saturday evening, my grandfather passed away. It was, he had dealt with some illnesses, and the Lord called him home. And it was definitely a tough weekend. It was a tough week, and it's still tough. It's only been 6 days since he left us. Something about, and I called him Papa George, so I'm going to refer to him as that. Something about Papa George that I think all of you guys out there, and guys and gals, and every sports fan out there can really appreciate is, in my personal life, I don't think there was a human being that I talked about sports with more than him. I mean, nobody. He watched basketball all the way back to the days of Pistol Pete Maravich, who was his favorite player. We'd always go back and forth on who was the better shooter. Was it Pistol Pete or was it my guy Steph Curry, right? We talk about that. He watched every single Super Bowl. We're talking Super Bowl I, Bart Starr. We're going that far back. He watched the Packers and the Chiefs play all the way to this year when the Buccaneers played the Chiefs. And he actually did, like me, pick Tampa Bay. And he loved college football. Of course, Vols fan, just like myself. But he was a big sports fan, and he loved his family. There's no question about it. And it's not going to feel quite the same without him. But he's in a better place now, and we're really going to miss him. But certainly this show is for him. And so with that, it's only appropriate to talk about a team that he and I talked about quite a bit, and their struggles, I guess you could say at times. That would be the Dallas Cowboys. So they played on Thanksgiving yesterday. They tend to do that. They always do. It's the 54th year the Dallas Cowboys have played. On Turkey Day, they played the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I might remind you guys that the Vegas Raiders had lost up until yesterday 3 straight games. They had all kinds of issues in the organization for the last month, 2 months, really. Starting with the firing of the head coach. He resigned. They fired him. John Gruden. You had the tragedy, the Henry Ruggs situation that happened. You had Damon Arnett, getting cut just for flat out being an idiot, acting like I don't know what he was doing. But basically, those 2 get cut. John Gruden gets fired. I mean, it's just the organization looks like it's in turmoil. It's chaos. And it looked like that for the last 3 weeks for the Raiders. They lost to the Giants, who are 3-7. They lost to the Chiefs. And that's really put the Chiefs back on the map, right? And then on Sunday, they lost at home to the Cincinnati Bengals, who had just lost 2 straight games. So I say all that to say this. The Raiders did not look like that yesterday. Now, the Raiders have been a dysfunctional organization for about 2 decades, really since the Tuck Rule game. It's funny how one game can really change the fortunes of 2 franchises, right? It catapulted the Patriots into a 20-year dynasty, and the Raiders Did go to the Super Bowl the year after that, but where they lost to their former coach, John Gruden. It was Tony Dungy's team and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And really, since then, the Raiders have been virtually irrelevant. But one thing I've always given the Raiders, at least for the last few years, I really like their quarterback. I've always been a Derek Carr defender on this show, apologist, whatever you want to call me. I've always been a Derek Carr guy on this show. I think he's mature. I think he's a good leader. He's accurate. He's got a really good arm, underrated arm in my view. Issue is he's been surrounded with a dysfunctional organization. Has he had weapons? Yeah. But Henry Ruggs now gone. Okay, you got Darren Waller gone for the rest of the game after getting hurt in the first half. All right, so you're looking at the receivers that this guy has, and Hunter Renfrow looks like Jerry Rice almost yesterday. Well, a lot of that had to do with Derek Carr getting the ball in key situations. And Hunter Renfrow had a big game. Guy played at Clemson for like 10 years, it felt like, right? But all that to say this. The Dallas Cowboys shot themselves in the foot more than the Las Vegas Raiders did. I almost said Oakland Raiders. It's still kind of taking some getting used to. But the thing for the Cowboys, first of all, the only two players on this team that I trust are the man whose name I'm wearing on my hat right now. That would, of course, be Rain Dakota Prescott, better known as Dak, who played outstanding yesterday. Yes, he missed throws. Listen, I can't defend that last throw he made in overtime where he missed Noah Brown. Dak's got to make that throw. Dak knows he's got to make that throw. Outside of that, I really don't know what else he could have done. 387 yards passing. Had a completion percentage of 68%. That's pretty good. Couple touchdown passes. Didn't turn the ball over. Passer rating over 100. When you look at what he has had to deal with for years with this dysfunctional organization, John says, welcome back. Welcome back. Appreciate that. John, appreciate you supporting the show as always. When you look at what Dak has had to deal with this organization for, what is this now, 6 years? And that's what I'm going to get to, okay? Ezekiel Elliott's hurt. A lot of people in the media are criticizing Zeke right now. I'll be the guy that defends him. Okay, the guy's banged up. Okay, Tony Pollard should have gotten more touches. Hey, we saw what Tony Pollard, we see what he can do when you get the ball in his hands. All he did was return a kickoff 100 yards last night. That really got Dallas back into the football game in the third quarter. So Zeke's not 100%. As a matter of fact, Adam Schefter reported not too long ago that the Cowboys might almost load manage Zeke and sit him next week against the Saints and get him a little bit extra rest, which I think is a good move. I think that's absolutely what they should do. I think that's what the Browns should do with Baker Mayfield. But we'll get into that later in the show, and I make my predictions for Week 12, which, by the way, is stacked. But when you look at the Cowboys, it's always, Stephen A. Smith talks about what can go wrong, will go wrong. Shannon Sharp says it's the Cowboys do Cowboy things. I can't disagree with either. Reminder, I'm not a true Cowboys fan. I'm more of a Dak fan than anybody, but I'll back the team that he's with. But the thing with this franchise is it's always something. You start with Amari Cooper, and this isn't unique to the Cowboys, but it's certainly relevant. Amari Cooper didn't get vaccinated. Okay, missed the game against Kansas City. I think the timeline for when he tested positive, even had he gotten vaccinated, he would have been unavailable to begin with. But he would have been available yesterday, but he wasn't. CeeDee Lamb got concussed. I never thought there was a chance he was going to play yesterday. There's no way he was going to pass through concussion protocols that fast. That'd have been almost suspicious if he was playing yesterday, as woozy as he looked just Sunday, not even a week ago, against Kansas City. Okay, the offensive line got Tyron Smith back. They were fine. But to the defense. And that brings me to the second guy that I trust is, by the way, John says, Dak needs to play on defense. Yeah. Well, look, if he can quarterback the defense as well as he can quarterback the offense, then, we'd be fine. But unfortunately, that is not the case. But the only other player on this team that I do trust, Dak Prescott, number one, number two, is Micah Parsons. Okay? Forget Defensive Rookie of the Year. That ship has sailed. It's over. Defensive Rookie of the Year, he's got that. He just broke DeMarcus Ware's rookie sack record with the Cowboys. DeMarcus Ware's record was 8. Micah Parsons has 9, and we still got 6 games left to play. So he's going to get double-digit sacks. Lord forbid, or not Lord forbid, Lord willing, he stays healthy. I'm going to knock on wood for him right now. But Micah Parsons has been a game wrecker. I mean, I loved the draft pick by Will McClay, Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy back in April. I didn't see this coming. But that was really the biggest, I guess the biggest plus of drafting Micah Parsons. This is what draft experts said for a year and a half when he was at Penn State. You can put him anywhere. And boy, has that been evidenced through the first 12 games of the season. 11 games of the season. Excuse me. It's always something. Amari Cooper doesn't get vaccinated. Okay, you got that. And then you got Mike McCarthy. I was starting to get in the Mike McCarthy train, if you guys remember a few weeks ago, because my thing was like, hey, you know what? I've got my issues. We saw in Hard Knocks, he can't motivate a squirrel to eat a nut, but has him ready to play, which was always the biggest knock on Jason Garrett. It's like, dang, here come the Cowboys coming out flat, and they're having to play from behind every big game on Fox or NBC or Thanksgiving, like we saw yesterday. Well, yesterday, it was kind of shades of Jason Garrett in a way, who, by the way, got fired by the Giants because of the job he was doing there. But Mike McCarthy, once again, in over his head. Because early in the game, so Dallas goes 3-and-out. Raiders, in 3 plays after that, they also went 3-and-out. Problem is, their third play, they hit Deshaun Jackson on a bomb, which I swear the guy still runs. Deshaun Jackson still looks like the fastest player in the league at whatever he is, 34, 35 years old. The guy can still fly. I mean, it's unbelievable. So they hit Deshaun Jackson, the 7-0 Raiders. Dallas, big response. They go down the field. They score a touchdown, and Greg Zuerlein misses the extra point. And so Derek Carr, the next drive, throws a pass over the middle to the very talented tight end Darren Waller, who, in my view, clearly fumbles. I do not think that was an incomplete pass. The officials call it an incomplete pass, but guess what, folks? You can challenge it, which Mike McCarthy did not do. And by the way, something else. Late in the game before that game-winning kick, because I was noticing this when I was watching the game with my dad. Okay, so Raiders get in field goal range, obviously in overtime, and obviously, trust me, I'll get to Anthony Brown. They get in field goal range, and Mike McCarthy, after the third down play, right before they brought the field goal unit out, calls a timeout before Daniel Carlson even gets lined up. Don't you want to save that timeout to ice the kicker? You can't use back-to-back timeouts like Dan Campbell learned yesterday. Boy, Detroit is a mess. But the Cowboys, honestly, right now are much better. So he used the timeout right off the bat instead of waiting until Daniel Carlson lines up, gets ready to attempt the game-winning kick, and then you use the timeout. You want to try and get in his head a little bit. It's the old, ice in the kicker. That's what that's all about. You want to get in their head a little bit. That's what that has always been about. And Mike McCarthy seemed to not realize that. And Anthony Brown. 4 pass interference penalties, all of which came on third down, 2 of which, by the way, came on one drive. It cost the Dallas Cowboys 21 points and over 100 yards, including third down and 18 when Micah Parsons makes what looks like the play of the game. Okay, the Raiders are driving. It's like, oh, boy, they're going to get in field goal range. And here comes Micah Parsons off the edge. He sacks Derek Carr. It's 3rd and 18. You're like, hold on a second. Dallas is still alive. They're still breathing. And Derek Carr, like any smart veteran quarterback would do, he's like, okay. He's been biting the whole game. Okay, he's had poor technique on these routes the whole game. Let's see if we can get him to bite. Because the Raiders, even if they came up short of the first down, we're talking it's close to a 60-yarder for Daniel Carlson, even if they have a chance to even attempt it. And so he's like, let's see what happens. So Derek Carr just throws it up for grabs. It's an underthrown pass. And Anthony Brown does not get his head turned around, and it's pass interference on the Cowboys. Raiders get in field goal range, and of course, through a series of timeouts and stuff like that, they win the game. John says penalties killed y'all. How about 14 penalties? 14 penalties for the Dallas Cowboys and I can't even believe I'm reading this. 166 yards. That doesn't even sound like a real stat, in part because it's actually the most penalty yards that the Dallas Cowboys have committed in their history as an NFL franchise, which is now 61 years old, 60, 61, 62 years old, whatever. But the Raiders, on the other hand, they also committed 14 penalties, but they weren't at crucial points in the game. I didn't think Sean Hockley's crew called a good game at all. I didn't. I mean, 28 penalties, that's ridiculous. 28 penalties that's way too much. You got to let these guys decide the game. Let the players decide the game. My belief is, especially in these big nationally televised game. By the way, this game got the highest rating of any NFL regular season game in 31 years, which just shows you the popularity of the NFL. It's incredible. But in big nationally televised games like this, don't throw any yellow out into the carpet unless it's clear and obvious. Like the Anthony Brown penalty, right? Like the 3rd and 18, Anthony Brown, there's contact down the field. He doesn't get his head turned out. That's pass interference, okay? My problem was with Anthony Brown, not the official. That was pass interference. But there were some other questionable calls. I know Tony Romo called out one before the 2-minute warning in the 4th quarter that they called on the Raiders center. That was just a ridiculous call. Like, you got to tighten it up a little bit. You can't have, but some of this is, it's a special teams coach for the Vegas Raiders and a head coach in Mike McCarthy who really, let's be honest, none of us really trust. None of us trust. So that's the reality for the Dallas Cowboys today. They're not going to get the number 1 seed, but people talking about, are they going to win the NFC East at this point? They're like, what is it? 2 games up on the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, Philadelphia may make the playoffs. I don't know. They're playing good football right now. I'll give credit where credit's due, even though I don't like the Eagles. We keep it real on this show. They're not going to catch Dallas for the NFC East. I'm sorry, they're not. Okay. Dallas gets New Orleans next week. Did you see the Saints against the Bills last night? Listen, Dallas may have their faults, but that was bad. Drew Brees was in the building last night calling the Saints game. They could have used him out in the field. I mean, let's I don't know what happened, but part of it's they're missing Alvin Kamara, but there's other issues with the Saints. But we're going to find something out about the Cowboys these next 6 games or whatever it is. Is this the same old Cowboys, or is it, hey, they looked adversity right in the eye, they got through it, and they're going into the playoffs. They're going into January with momentum. We've seen a lot of Cowboys teams in the last decade go into Thanksgiving like this, whether they win or lose the game on Thanksgiving, which, by the way, it's 3 straight losses now on Thanksgiving Day for the Cowboys. But regardless of win or loss, they go in, they got 7 or 8 wins. It's like, oh, here we go. The Cowboys are going to go on a run. And they just fall flat in their face in December. And that's that. We'll see. Because right now, this looks like same old Cowboys. It does. It's the very reason I wanted Dak Prescott to leave. So I could not have to deal with this as a fan. But it is what it is. The Cowboys are 7-4. They are going to win the NFCs. That's not my concern. My concern is, can they still have Super Bowl aspirations? We'll see. Right now, I doubt it. But I'm not ruling it out. We'll see. These next 6 games, even if the Cowboys can go 5-1 and they lose to Arizona in week 17, which, by the way, there's no shame in losing to a team that's got the best record in the league. What the Cowboys need to do, they'll be favored in every single game from here on out, probably except for Arizona, who the Cowboys play, like I said, on January 2nd, week 17. But you're talking about a Saints team that scored 6 points against a Bills defense that the Colts dropped 41 on just 5 days ago. You're talking about a Washington football team. Taylor Heineke, come on. Taylor, is that what's come down to? I fear Ron Rivera. I don't fear Taylor Heineke. And Chase Young is done for the season. Giants, wow. Daniel Jones going to beat the Cowboys? I don't see it. Okay, then you got Washington again, Arizona, and then you finish at the Eagles to close out the regular season. Dallas is not going to lose the NFC East, but it's all about, can they take care of business? They're going to get healthier. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb will be back. There's a very good chance DeMarcus Lawrence will be back on Thursday Night Football. He hasn't played since week 1. Are these the same old Cowboys? Or is this something different? All year I've been convinced, possibly even fooled, that it's something different. We'll see. It's all out in front of them. We'll see how the Cowboys deal with adversity. All right, enough of my 20 minutes on America's team. Let's talk about America's most popular basketball player, and that is, of course, LeBron James. So LeBron came back on Wednesday night off the suspension. Of course, again, missing the last 2 shows. I didn't get to talk about the Isaiah Stewart incident, which, my goodness, that was unbelievable. You got LeBron. Was the elbow intentional? Was it unintentional? I don't know. I don't know. If that's Ron Artest, Draymond Green, Zaza Pachulia, or Bill Laimbeer, then I'm like, yeah, that's intentional. I'm not even going to second guess that. But LeBron's never had a reputation of being a dirty player. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional. My gut tells me there's probably a little bit of intent behind that. But then Isaiah Stewart just goes nuts. I mean, he looks like a running back going through security, and he's going through his teammates and coaches and some Lakers players trying to go after LeBron James. And it was like, man, this is crazy. If it had to be from any team, wouldn't it be from the Detroit Pistons? Which, thank goodness, it didn't turn into like a Malice at the Palace type of scenario there, because that could have been horrible. But it was cleared up. LeBron was suspended for a game. Unfortunately, that game was a nationally televised one against the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Certainly, you wanted LeBron to be out there, but I guess that the NBA decided that, hey, LeBron just elbowed a dude in the face. Like, you got to get him out of there. And then for Isaiah Stewart, he got suspended for 2 games. And the Lakers, I believe, actually play the Pistons. Is it tomorrow night or is it Sunday? I'm trying to check. It's Sunday. Okay, so the Lakers host the Pistons Sunday night, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific time for those of you in Los Angeles. That is going to be very interesting to see the early parts of that game. Very interesting, especially once LeBron and Isaiah Stewart are on the floor together. But LeBron came back from a suspension Wednesday night and looked like the king, right? He looked like the guy who, for the vast majority of his career, I don't think he is currently, but the vast majority of his career has been the best player on earth. I mean, he balled last night. The game goes to overtime. And LeBron that game dropped 39 on 13 for 29 shooting, hits 5 threes, including some bombs, including the dagger in overtime, with 6 assists, 5 rebounds. That is the LeBron that I feel like we haven't seen enough. Now, it's a regular season game on a Wednesday night in Indiana. Frank, there might have been more Laker fans there than Pacers fans, to be honest with you. Who knows? Of course, Indiana is a pretty great basketball state, and Indianapolis is a great basketball city. So who knows? But, this is LeBron I feel like we missed out on for most of his career. Because when he goes into killer mode, like that MJ Kobe assassin mode, forget about it. You can't. There's nobody in the world that can stop this guy. And you saw that on full display Wednesday night against Indiana, and the Pacers had to deal with all that. But arguably, even the bigger story coming out of this game was that LeBron pretty much got 2 people thrown out of the game. Not players. Isaiah Stewart didn't show up. You had two fans sitting courtside, and all of a sudden, the Lakers are up 3 in overtime with 2 minutes and change to go. And LeBron basically stops the game. He pulls the official over. They walk over to that spot, and he says, hey, we need to get these guys out of here. It was actually a man and a woman. I don't know if they were married or not, or brother, sister, who knows. They got kicked out of the game. Security removed them, and that was it. And you saw the image of the woman doing like the crybaby emoji very sarcastically. And so I was thinking, okay, the first assumption I had is, okay, did they say something racial? Because like if they use like a racial slur or anything like that, it's like, oh yeah, get these people out of here, right? And so I'm my ears are kind of open the next 12 to 24 hours. Like, okay, can we find out what they said? Can we find out what they said? Because LeBron is not the type of guy to just like stop a game and say, get these people out of here. He's not that type of dude. But when you see the incidents, remember I talked about it at length during the playoffs. At least I think it was during the first round, mostly. Thankfully, during the playoffs last year, you had a fan dump popcorn on Russell Westbrook. You had a fan almost hit Kyrie Irving in the eye, which could have been horrible, with a water bottle. You had other incidents, fans running out in the court in Philadelphia. I mean, there was some bad situations that happened in the playoffs last year in regards to fan and player interactions. And that was yet another, because according to those sitting close by, the woman was saying, I hope Bronny dies. Bronny, which is LeBron's son, LeBron James Jr. They call him Bronny. She said, I hope Bronny dies in a car accident. And then the guy's repeating, LeBron is the female dog. I'm not going to repeat, exactly what he said, but you know what I mean. And so LeBron gets them kicked out, and he should have gotten them kicked out. Because the bottom line of all this is, people get these courtside seats, which are not cheap, obviously, and they think they can just do whatever they want. Are you there to watch a game? Are you there to watch entertainment? Yeah. You're not there to watch, most of those guys out there, they're good dudes, right? And LeBron's one. LeBron's a good dude. You're not there to watch them be good people. You're there to watch them play basketball, right? But you've got to know, these are human beings, man. They got families, they got wives, they got kids. You don't disrespect them like that. You don't talk to LeBron James like that. You don't talk to anybody like that for that reason. Forget the fact that it's even LeBron James. The reason it's as big of a story as it is because it's LeBron James. But anybody else, regardless, that's unacceptable. Okay? First of all, we all know, you don't call anybody, man, woman, you don't call anybody the B word. It's about as disrespectful of a term for different reasons, depending on who you're calling. It's a very, very disrespectful word. It's a vulgar term. You don't use that, okay? And then, to me, even worse, almost like it was borderline a death threat towards LeBron's own son. And so I'm seeing people on social media call him La Snitch or La Security. It's like, no. They don't deserve to sit there. Listen, obviously they had the money, or I don't know if someone gave them the tickets, or if they had them, whatever. That's irrelevant. They didn't come there to watch the game. They came to be a part of the game, a part of the story. And thankfully, these incidents, for the most part, are few and far between. Like, we're not seeing these like every night, thank goodness. But that's unacceptable. And kudos to LeBron. They should have been kicked out. Okay, it's like LeBron said after the game. He said there's a difference in booing and, cheering if I make a mistake, or if I, hoping that me as an individual and my team as a collective group doesn't succeed. That's called being an opposing fan. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the fun of sports. But once you get personal, that crosses the line, man. Like anything that's like, racial, or you're talking about somebody's family, or you're disrespecting them as a human being, that can't be tolerated. So good on LeBron James, good on the Pacers security for getting these jokers out of here. And to me, they should never be allowed to attend an NBA game again. Because if you exhibit this kind of behavior, because if you're sitting courtside, we expect more from you. Okay, it's kind of like you see Lakers games all the time, and Knicks games, obviously, but especially Lakers game. My dad always says it's a who's who of celebrities at the Staples Center, which is going to be called Crypto.com Arena soon. Come on, man. That's Staples Center. The point is, the arena in Los Angeles, right? It's the stars of the stars, right? Of course, Jack Nicholson being, chief among them, right? He's gone to Lakers games for decades now. Jack Nicholson's not sitting in the nosebleeds. Okay, I think Adele went to the opening Lakers-Warriors game in part because, obviously it's a good opening game, in part because her boyfriend right now is LeBron's agent, Rich Paul. Adele's not sitting in the nosebleeds. She's sitting courtside. We expect more. If you're a celebrity, if you're an owner, regardless of who you are, we expect more from you if you sit there, because we assume, oh, okay, you got money, so that must mean you conduct yourself in a manner that is appropriate to the game of basketball, and just to go and see an athletic event. Some people, that's not the case. And so Good on LeBron. I remember this happened a couple of years ago during a finals game. It was the Warriors and the Raptors, my Warriors and Raptors. And a minority owner for the Warriors said something. To this day, I'm not real sure what he said, but it was bad enough that prompted a reaction from Kyle Lowry. And a lot of people said at the time Kyle Lowry should have stopped the game and gotten this guy removed, which he ultimately did get removed. I think his suspension's over now, which to me is crazy, but whatever. But LeBron, I guess, I don't know if he saw that or whatever, but he got these people removed. He should have. And I just hate it when this happens because people got to realize, yeah, they're basketball players. Yeah, you're there to be entertained. These are human beings, man. These guys got families. Okay, these guys are people. You can't talk to them like that. Let's talk a little bit about Alabama, which I do occasionally in this show. I don't talk a ton of college football, but I certainly watch it every Saturday. Cannot wait for Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. The game, right? Noon on Fox, the greatest broadcaster in college football and college sports for that matter. Talking about Gus Johnson, who is like the GOAT of broadcast. Gus Johnson and Kevin Harlan and Mike Breen are my two favorite broadcasters in sport, or three favorite broadcasters in sports. I love Gus Johnson, but he's going to be calling the game. He got Ohio State, Michigan to, win their division. In all likelihood, get in the college football playoff. I mean, there's so much at stake tomorrow. I'm pulling for Michigan, but I've got Ohio State winning in the Big House tomorrow afternoon. But it'll definitely be a fun one in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But Alabama. So it's kind of been an interesting year for the Crimson Tide this year. Of course, they're once again the defending, reigning national champions. Last year, they pretty much they don't breeze through the regular season. They breeze through the whole season. I mean, Florida gave them trouble in the SEC championship game. But after that, they smoked Notre Dame in the semifinal game, and they smoked Ohio State in the national championship game to finish, what was it? I guess 13-0 because they only played 10 games in the regular season because of the pandemic. And this year, you got a freshman quarterback, Bryce Young, who's balled out this year, who's going to be a Heisman finalist, who's going to be in New York with an opportunity against the likes of C.J. Stroud at Ohio State, with Kenneth Walker at Michigan State to possibly win the Heisman Trophy. It's going to be a close race, and I'm not real sure if there's a real front runner right now. There might be 24 hours from now. We'll see. But it's been a really interesting year for Alabama, right? They get out the gates. They smoke Miami. They're playing well. And then they run to kind of a speed bump. They lose on the road at Texas A&M, who was at the time unranked. And since then, they have not lost. But people are like, oh, is Alabama falling off? And Nick Saban was talking about this. Nick Saban was at one of these events that you see a lot of college coaches, football, basketball, baseball, where the coach goes to like a big restaurant in whatever town, campus that he coaches at. You got the radio hosts from that broadcasting team, and they ask him questions, and then you'll have fans call in, and they'll ask questions. And so that's kind of how the whole event went down. So Nick Saban's at one of these events, and a fan asks him, they said, how do you, he said, how do you tune out the rat poison, which is what Nick Saban called the media. Remember years ago, he said, you guys are like rat poison, just a big old distraction. We hear coaches say that all the time, but Nick Saban kind of put a name on it. And the fan says, how do you tune out all the rat poison? Because we as fans go into games just expecting to win. It's just how much are we going to win by? And Nick Saban's like, well, look, I'm glad you've got that kind of mentality, but that's not the mentality we have. Take a listen.
All right, now we're not happy to win a game anymore. We're not happy to win a game at all. All right, we think we should win games by whatever. And I don't think that's fair to the players either. All right, because our players work their butt off, all right, to be the best that they can be. All right, and to get criticized for what they work hard for to do so that you can be entertained. All right, so that you can enjoy and have pride and passion for what they accomplish and what they do. And they're not perfect. All right, they're just college students. They go to school every day. They got to study. All right, they have to run extra after practice when they miss study hall. I mean, come on, give me a break. This is not professional football. These guys aren't getting paid to play here. They're representing you all. You should be proud and happy to support them and appreciate what they do and have some gratitude. And you know what else? Nobody wants to win worse than they do. Not me, not you. I don't care what kind of fan you are. Nobody wants to win more than the players that play. Nobody.
That was magnificently said.
And nobody feels worse than they do when they lose.
Yep.
Nobody. So for all you self-absorbed folks out there that can't look past your own self, all right, to appreciate what other people are doing.
Well said, to say the very least, man. And that was something that probably has needed to be said emphatically like that for a while.
I love what the radio host says after that. He's like, yeah, I don't really know where we go from that, but yeah, you're exactly right. And Nick Saban is right. And to me, what Nick Saban was describing there is really what we all love about sports. It's that the passion of it, which we all know. What is college football, particularly the SEC, known for more than anything? People talk about, it's the words that everybody uses to describe the conference and college football as a whole, right? Passion, energy, tradition. That's what we use to describe college football. And Nick Saban is saying, look, that's great. Like that's why we love you guys coming to these games. That's what we missed last year because of the pandemic. But you can't come in like he referred to some as self-absorbed fans. You can't just go in thinking, oh, we got this. You can't do that. You don't just show up and win just because you have the Crimson A on your hat or your shirt or whatever you're wearing, right? That's not how it works. That's how being great works. Nick Saban, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest college football coach of all time. We all know that. He didn't become great. You got to realize Alabama's first year under Nick Saban, they went like 6-6. They were average. Alabama, since Nick Saban has taken over, they've been upset. This has been rare, but they've upset people occasionally, depending on whatever circumstances that game has attributed to it. They've won national championships. They've lost national championships. They've won games big. They've won games close. They've lost games close. They've lost games big. There's ebbs and flows of a season. And and we didn't get to show in that bite, but Nick Saban was talking about there's this notion, and I got to be honest, folks, I can be guilty of this. And so forgive me. I can be guilty of this as a fan and as a podcaster / live sports host about say, oh, this team's done. They're done. And what Nick Saban said earlier before that clip that we showed, he was saying, Texas A&M had 2 disappointing losses. And to him, that made A&M more dangerous because Alabama is the biggest game on almost everybody they play, biggest game on their schedule. It's kind of like what we always talk about when teams are trying to go back-to-back winning championships. That's why it's so hard to do it. It's the old cliche. You go from being the hunter to the hunted. And not only is Alabama the defending national champs, they're also one of the biggest brands in the sport. And Nick Saban realizes that. I watched A Football Life, the great documentaries that the NFL does during the football season. They do it every Friday. I think they're doing one on Drew Pearson if they haven't done one already. I can't wait to watch that. But they did one on Nick Saban this year. And they were talking about how, and I think they said he got it from his dad, but he's such a perfectionist. He wants to, he talks about, and I've heard a lot of coaches say this, but Nick talked about not practicing till you get it right, but practicing until you can't get it wrong. That's the difference. That's the difference between being good and great. Yeah, I heard Emmanuel Acho say one time, the great broadcaster on Fox, and it has a great show on YouTube. He said the biggest enemy of great is good. Just being good enough. And what Nick Saban is saying is you got to have your head in this thing all the time. That's why Arkansas, they took Alabama to the wire. It took Bryce Young having the best game that any Alabama quarterback has ever had, literally. Now look at the numbers, to beat Arkansas. It is it's more true in the NFL than in college. But you never know, man. It's a game that you can be upset on any given day. And this is why Alabama under Nick Saban has had the run it's had probably a greater run than really any program under one coach has ever had in college football history, really. I mean, it's only been, there's been coaches that have had longer runs at their programs than Nick Saban. Nick Saban's only in his like 15th, 16th year, 14th year, something like that at Alabama. But they've won the championships and they've lost the championships. But what he's saying is, look, it's all about the players. And what he was doing is taking up for his guys there. That's going to help recruiting in the future. It's saying like, hey, if these fans are beating up on us, our coach has got our back. So as fans, I can be guilty of the point he made about Texas A&M. He also talked about LSU. LSU, they're going to fire Orgeron at the end of the season. And so it's like, Bama's got LSU. Hey, LSU was a Hail Mary away from beating Alabama. So I love the mindset of Nick Saban. It's why I have so much respect for him. And it's why, and I've said this, Alabama fans, and I can say this, I know Alabama fans. It's why Alabama fans could sometimes drive me a little bit nuts, is there's almost this entitlement of ways. It's kind of like the kid that asks for a BMW for Christmas and they got a Toyota instead and they pitched a fit. Like that's kind of the Alabama fan mindset in a way. Not all the fans are like that, but a pretty large portion is. And Coach Saban's like, nah, that's not how you win championships. You can't be entitled in this sport, especially in football of all sports. I mean, the ultimate, I mean, you're trying to move another grown man against his will. That's what football is at the end of the day. And Nick Saban's like, you can't win championships that way. And he said to that caller earlier, he said, well, I'm glad you got that mindset, but we don't. That was his way of saying, it's a good thing that you're not running this program and I am. Bravo to Nick Saban. Whew. What a weekend, we've gotten in college football and the NFL. We've got, we got some amazing games. This, to me, honestly, is the best slate of games in the NFL we've had all season. For real. The best slate of games we had all season. I'm not saying that just to keep y'all sticking around for my predictions. It is the best slate of games. You're talking about playoff implications in just about every game except for like maybe one or two. I mean, it's unbelievable, what the schedule is going to look like. So let's go in and get this party started. Let's start with, let's pause the music for just a second. Been off for a few shows, of course. So I wasn't able to do my prediction, or at least put it out there live for the last few games. So just to put these up right here, I did pick Tampa Bay to beat the New York Giants. I picked them to win 38-17. They, of course, won the game 30-10. So I picked them to win by 21. They won by 20. So, hey, close enough. Buccaneers won. I picked the Bears to beat the Lions 24-21. Of course, the Bears didn't win that game. They won on a game-winning field goal in a game that was almost unwatchable. I've said this. Let me put myself back on the screen for a little bit. Why is it that of all the great franchises in the NFL, of all the interesting franchises in the NFL, there's two teams that get the Thanksgiving Day game? The Dallas Cowboys. Now, you can say what you want about the Cowboys. They've lost 3 straight Turkey Day games. But one thing the Dallas Cowboys never are, ever, are boring. Cowboys are never boring. Win, lose, or draw. They're always interesting for one reason or another. And they're the biggest brand in the world in sports. So it makes sense to have the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Why do the Lions? I've asked this question for years. Why do the Lions get a Thanksgiving Day game? Nobody cares about the Lions. It's nothing against Detroit fans. I've always said I feel bad for Detroit fans more than I do Cleveland fans, because Cleveland fans are all arrogant about their teams. They think that they're they think when they pass gas it smells like perfume. Detroit fans, man, they got it rough. The Lions are still winless, and we're at Thanksgiving. You got the Tigers in rebuild. You've got the Pistons are in rebuild. It's nothing against Detroit fans, but why do the Lions get a Thanksgiving Day game? And of all teams, the Bears. Man, the NFL schedule makers do a fantastic job every year. They I don't know what they were thinking on this one. If you're going to have the Lions every year on Thanksgiving just for tradition's sake, whatever. But at least put them against a team that we actually care about watching. Nobody outside of Chicago cares about the Bears, especially with Andy Dalton out there. So I did get my Bucks pick right, Bears pick right. I got my Cowboys pick badly wrong. I picked them to win big over the Raiders. I feel embarrassed to say that, 42-20. They, of course, lost the game 36-33 in overtime. But I rebounded somewhat. I picked the Bills to win 31-16. The Bills did, in fact, score 31 points, and the Saints scored 10 fewer than I had them getting. Bills won 31-6. So you had that. But it's time to get into the picks that I have not made live yet. So here we go. Let's get the music back going. We're going to start with a division rivalry with all kinds of playoff implications and will in the long run. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati is a slight home favorite, -3.5. So Vegas is that close to making it a pick'em. The thing with Cincinnati is this. Yes, their defense has rebounded from last year. Cincinnati's defense has probably been one of the bigger surprises to me of any unit in the NFL this season. Like they've been underrated. They're up there in sacks and pressures. They've done a good job. But the biggest criticism I've had of the Bengals since they drafted Joe Burrow, get this guy an offensive line, please. And now you're going against the Steelers with the pass rushers that they have, with Cam Hayward in the interior, who played a great game, by the way, against the Chargers on this past Sunday night. I think it's a close game. Steelers-Bengals, close game. I'm going to take the Steelers to win, though. I got Steelers winning 28-24, getting the upset win over Cincinnati and jumping them in the standings. Pittsburgh's 5-4-1 in an AFC wild card that is about as crowded as it gets. I'm going to take the Steelers to win this game 28-24 and go to 6-4-1. You guys know I hate ties, but the reality of the fact is that that's what the Steelers' record will be after they beat the Bengals. And by the way, Big Ben played his best game, I think, in 3 years against the Chargers on Sunday. I think he keeps it up. And he gets this Bengals defense. Let's go ahead right off the bat with our upset of the week. That's right, second game, upset of the week. Because I'm looking at the defending, reigning Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road where they are 3-point road favorites over the Indianapolis Colts. This one doesn't make a ton of sense to me, guys, because the Colts right now, quietly almost, because they're not a big name, big organization, they are playing outstanding football. Their defense has been pretty good all season. I've always liked their defense. Darius Leonard is a monster. Jonathan Taylor, folks, is looking like right now, with Derrick Henry out, the best running back in football. Last week, 180 yards rushing. I mean, he's outstanding. Carson Wentz. Now, you guys know, longtime listeners of Carving It Up, no, I've never been big on Carson Wentz. But I said when he was traded to Indianapolis, if there's any place where he can succeed, it's with Frank Reich. Why is that? Because Frank Reich was his offensive coordinator when the Eagles had that Super Bowl run before Wentz got hurt toward the end of the season. Wentz was having an MVP-type season. He got off to a rough start, but since that Tennessee loss, Carson Wentz has been great. He's cut his turnovers down. He's been efficient, and that was a dominant performance that the Colts put on the Bills last week. So I'm going to take the Colts to upset and win this game 34-24. That's right, big upset. I got the Colts winning over the Bucs 34-24. I think what it comes down to is, can Tampa Bay stop Jonathan Taylor? I don't think they can, and Tampa's secondary's beat up. You just couldn't see that because Daniel Jones was the quarterback on Monday night, and Daniel Jones can make a lot of secondaries look good. No offense. Let's go to the Carolina Panthers against the Miami Dolphins. This is one of the less good games that we have on the schedule, but Carolina is still very much in the playoff race. Cam Newton is back. He's looking to get his first win back as the Panthers starter since 2018. They're going to Miami, where the Dolphins have won 3 straight games, including one against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But I'm looking at this line right now. The Panthers on the road are favored -2.5. I think this will be a fairly close game, but I will have the Panthers winning it. I got Panthers winning and covering the spread 27-20 over the Miami Dolphins. I think the thing with Carolina is this. What I like about the Panthers is that they've weathered the storm. It's been up and down, but this is what I liked about Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a master when it comes to getting through chaotic situations, going back to his days at Temple and his days at Baylor. He took over a dumpster fire at Baylor with all the scandals they had. And within 2-3 years, hey, they're in the Big 12 championship game. And within 2 years, the Carolina Panthers are playoff contenders. You got Cam back. He's starting to get up to speed in the offense. They go on the road to Miami in what will be good weather conditions. I got the Panthers winning this game and getting to 6-6. Going to now, in my opinion, the second best game of the day. Heck, I could argue the best game of the day, and it's in the 1 o'clock window. You've got the Tennessee Titans going to Foxborough to take on the red-hot New England Patriots. This is a Tennessee team, it's Tennessee defense, mind you, that has completely rebounded from last year. The secondary's been better, the pass rush has been excellent, and the linebacking core has been solid. The thing about New England is this. In this 5-game winning streak, to me, they've had one impressive win. They beat the Jets. Congratulations. A lot of teams beat the Jets. 8 teams have beat the Jets. Actually, 7. They beat the Chargers on the road. I'll give them that. They played well against the Chargers. Carolina, come on. Sam Darnold was the quarterback that game. Sam Darnold is a turnover machine. Cleveland, Baker Mayfield, you should win that game. Okay, and they did. And then they go to Atlanta and dominate the Falcons, who, by the way, have no pass rush. They are last in the NFL in sacks. Tennessee Titans, on the other hand, are certainly not. They got a great pass rush, and Mac Jones is an immobile quarterback. And so with that said, you got an efficient quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, a really good offensive line. I got the Titans winning this game fairly easily, 27-17. Patriots are favored -7. This probably should have been my upset of the week, but to me, this line makes absolutely no sense. None. So I got the Titans winning this game. Remember, 2 of the Titans' 3 losses have come against 2 crappy teams, the Jets and the Texans. But the Titans are 7-0 against teams that made the playoffs last year. New England was not one of those teams, but certainly they are a team that we anticipate at this point in time is going to make the playoffs. Titans win this game 27-17. They're just a better, well-rounded team, and they got a quarterback that I trust more than New England quarterback. Going to a division matchup in the opposite conference, you got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New York Giants in what will be Michael Strahan's jersey retirement ceremony. Number 92 will be retired at the Meadowlands. Unfortunately, I don't think this will be the Giants' day in regards to this game. Listen, the Eagles have been playing really good football. Really, if you think about it, they probably should be 6-5. Really. Could have easily beaten the Chargers, who it took a game-winning field goal for the Chargers to beat the Eagles. Then you look at the other side of the Giants, and they're in complete chaos right now. Complete turmoil. They just fired Jason Garrett, their offensive coordinator. Daniel Jones is playing horrible football. I mean, think about it. The only touchdown they scored last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it came after Brady threw a pick. And they were set up in prime scoring position. They cashed in which their left tackle scored, a touchdown. But Daniel Jones has not played well. Saquon Barkley does not look the same post-ACL injury. And it's an offensive line, folks, that is just bad. It's bad. I think they will compete with Philadelphia just for the purpose that, listen, this offense isn't going to look exactly the same with Jason Garrett gone. I do think the Eagles will win with the spread, by the way. Eagles -3.5 on the road. I don't think Philadelphia covers, but I do have them winning this game 23-20 on a game-winning field goal. I think it'll take a game-winning field goal to beat the Giants. Sorry, Michael Strahan. Sorry, Giants fans. Eagles will win this game 23-20. Let's go to a game I don't really care much about. The Atlanta Falcons and the Jacksonville Jaguars put up the score right now. I think Atlanta wins this game easily. Jacksonville's defense is bad. Atlanta's offense is good. End of story. 30-16. Falcons win. Could care less about that game, to be honest with y'all. And another game I could care less about before we move on to some really good ones. Jets, Texans, 2 horrible teams, 2-8 teams. A game that I probably won't even watch, to be honest with you. 21-19 Jets. Zach Wilson will be back. Tyrod Taylor plays efficient football. I think he'll keep the Texans in it. But I think Zach Wilson gets it done at the end, and the Jets win this game 21-19. The Texans fail on a 2-point conversion to tie the game, and the Jets get their 3rd win of 2021. All right, back to the interesting games. You got the LA Chargers taking on the Denver Broncos in a game that the Chargers on the road are favored -2.5, which surprised me a little bit. You got 2 teams in the AFC West that are fighting for wild card positioning. In the case of the Chargers, they still have a shot to win the division. Now, Kansas City is playing great football. These two teams will meet, I think, in week 15 or 16. I think it's week 15 that the Chargers and Chiefs will meet, possibly to decide the division. Who knows what will happen 3 weeks from now. But for the Chargers, they got to stay focused on the Broncos and vice versa. The thing with Denver, this defense, even without Von Miller, has been pretty solid. Okay, because to me, the turning point in that game when they lost to Philadelphia, they played him close. It's Teddy Bridgewater obviously not trying to make a play on Darius Slay, and that was all she wrote. But fortunately for the Denver Broncos, since that incident, they've had a bye week. They've had time to prepare for the Chargers, and the Chargers nearly choked it against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night, but Justin Herbert came through. But listen, the Mile High, that is a hard place to play. So I'm actually going to go with the upset. I'm going to take the Broncos to win this game. Listen, we've seen a lot of upsets this season. I don't think this is completely out of the question. I got the Broncos winning on a walk-off field goal, 29-26. Justin Herbert keeps them in the game, but Teddy Bridgewater plays efficient football. They run the ball well. The Chargers have at times struggled to stop the run. I will take the Broncos to win 29-26. Let's go to the America's Game of the Week on Fox. You got two Super Bowl, forget playoff, Super Bowl contending teams, the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers. The Rams are favored by a point on the road, despite having lost 2 straight games, and I completely agree with this. Listen, the Rams are coming off a bye, and what do we know about great coaches coming off a bye? They usually win. Andy Reid, Bill Belichick. Okay, you got Sean Payton, Sean McDermott. Good to great coaches are good off a bye. And in this case, Sean McVay, one of the 5 best coaches in football, going on the road to Matt LaFleur, a coach who I have never trusted since he's been in Green Bay. You got Matt Stafford, who has played in Lambeau Field a few times. Yes, the Rams are a warm weather team, a dome team, really. But Matt Stafford's played in Lambeau Field a few times, obviously being in the division for the better part of the last 12 years. But when you look at this game, Packers defense is good, but Aaron Jones out. That's big for the Packers. And that defense against Kirk Cousins on Sunday did not look good. And so I think it's going to be a cold game in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at Lambeau Field. But the good news for the Rams, by all indications, it's not going to be wet conditions, so they will be able to throw the football around a little bit. I think OBJ has his breakout game. He's gotten to build a rapport with Matt Stafford over the past 13 days leading up to this game. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams to cover the spread and beat the Packers 26-22. 26-22, Rams win over the Packers in what will be a very interesting game, and put the Rams right back in position to possibly get that number 1 seed and steal it from their division rival, the Arizona Cardinals, who are on a bye. Let's go to now the Vikings and the 49ers. San Francisco's favored by 3 at home, which of course, as we all know, means that Vegas is calling this a pick'em. This is a big one because you got 2 5-5 teams fighting for positioning in the NFC wildcard. You got the 49ers, who have completely turned their season around. Obviously starting, I believe, 2-4. They're now 5-5. They're 500. Opportunity to have a winning record for the first time since September. And then you got the Vikings, who have played nothing but close games. I mean, just about every game that the Vikings played have been close. If they win a few of those, say against Baltimore, against Arizona, against Dallas, hey, they got a shot to beat Green Bay for the division. Kirk Cousins played excellent on Sunday against Aaron Rodgers, outdueled him, won it for Minnesota. And the bottom line for the Vikings is this. Kirk Cousins ain't on prime time. This ain't prime time. It's 4 o'clock at San Francisco. I'm going to take the Vikings to win this game. I think Minnesota wins in San Francisco 31-27 because I feel like the Vikings have more of an identity. The Vikings have more of a self-awareness. They know who they are. I don't know if the 49ers know who they are right now. Is Garoppolo back next year? Do we go to Trey Lance? Garoppolo's played well. And I think he'll play well Sunday. But this defense can give you issues. I'm going to take the Vikings to win 31-27 and will be a highly entertaining football game. It is time now for...
betting man.
If I were a betting man, I'm looking at the line. between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens at home are favored -3.5. Almost a pick 'em according to Vegas. To me, this makes no sense. Because the Ravens, last week, no Lamar Jackson. They win at Chicago. No Lamar Jackson, the best player. And they still get the win on the road in a tough environment. They're now at home. Lamar Jackson said he feels outstanding. I'll take his word for it. Fresh legs, ready to go against Baker Mayfield, who is not fresh. Who's taking shots at the media, at his own fan base. It's kind of a Baker Mayfield trademark, right? Taking shots at people. But he's beat up, shoulder issue. He's got all kinds of physical ailments. I don't even think this is going to be much of a contest. The Browns will score some garbage time points. Ravens win this one big, 35-21. Ravens win this game 35-21 and continue their road to winning the AFC North, which I said they would before the season started. I don't buy Cleveland as a Super Bowl team because I don't buy Baker Mayfield. Because there's been quarterbacks that have played beat up this season. Aaron Rodgers is beat up. He's got a toe issue. It's not COVID toe, as he tries to imply, but it is a toe injury. He looks great against the Minnesota Vikings. Nothing bad to say about his performance. Okay? There's injuries. But if you're out there, the fans, they're not going to care. Heck, in some cases, depending on the kind of leader you are, your teammates may not care. And that's the situation in the case of Baker Mayfield. So I think the Browns are in for a world of hurt. I think they're going to drop to 6-6 and be hanging on for dear life for that playoff picture, for those playoff spots, because they play the Ravens, okay? Then they get a bye, and then they play the Ravens again. They got to split these games, and they're not winning on Sunday against the Ravens. Does Baker Mayfield play? It's trending in that direction. Regardless if Baker plays, Case Keenum plays, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Lamar Jackson, to use the word of this show, is going to carve up the Browns defense, which is really good. But eventually you get to the point where it gets demoralizing. The Ravens have, of course, a great rushing attack. Lamar is going to have fresh legs, and John Harbaugh is going to come out with a great game plan. So I got the Ravens winning this one 35-21. If I were a betting man, I'm taking the Ravens -3.5 to cover the spread. All right, that is all the time we have for tonight's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by on this Black Friday, on this Thanksgiving Day weekend. It's going to be fun, man. Some great college football action, some great NFL action, some good NBA action. Golden State Warriors, baby, 16-2, playing the Portland Trailblazers tonight. Steph Curry versus Damian Lillard. Must-see TV. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see y'all on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. God bless you all. Peace out.